Hello, everybody, and welcome to Global Azure 2022. I hope everybody has had a chance to check out some sessions here on the Global Azure stage over the course of the day. I know it's been going. We're 24. It's 24/7 for the next 3 days, rolling time zones. So go to do a search for Global Azure 2022, and you can get to you should be able to get to all of the community events as well as the streaming sessions, such as what I have been doing today. This is actually my third of 5 sessions here, and we're changing up a bit. This is my only session today that isn't around security directly. Though when we're talking about responsible AI and data and how it's used for things such as public health and law enforcement, there's obviously a level of security and governance that goes into that, and we'll talk about a little bit of that as we go through this session. I am speaking on behalf of Global Azure 2022, as well as the user group that I co-organize called Give Me Cloud Talks. And we'll talk more about Give Me Cloud Talks at the end of this session. My name is Dwayne. I'm a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Certified Trainer, Regional Lead for the MCT program. Also have recently authored 2 books for PACT around Microsoft security capabilities. And feel free to follow me on the social media links provided on the slide. I am also a senior product manager for CloudReach and Atos Company, a global GSI and Microsoft CSP. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to hit some general concepts around data and AI, talk about the Azure Data Services and Azure AI Services at a high level, and then we're going to talk about a little bit around data modeling, and that's when we'll get into some of the responsibilities and some of the ways that it can be used for public health as well as law enforcement, but what we need to take into account when we're discussing, when we're working with this raw data and feeding this raw data into data sources and data pipelines, and then using AI and machine learning to read those. Data analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning are all very trending at a very high rate within the IT industry because there are more and more connected devices. So as we connect more devices, we have more raw data. We want to work with that data, and that's really where we're doing artificial intelligence and machine learning models with the data, and being able to present that data becomes very important. But we need to show and have certain responsibilities for that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the data concepts and what we're looking at here. We have a level of data abundance now. We have, as we've evolved, now raw data is coming in from everything. It's coming in from our cars. It's coming in from devices, from cameras that are doing surveillance, Ring cameras in our own household, Echo devices in our house, or Cortana on our Windows machines. All of these devices are gathering data, and we need to find ways to scale and to provide supportability in a way to analyze that data. And cloud services provide that level of scalability that we really can't get from on-premises services, as our data estate in our own data centers reaches capacity rather quickly, and we have the capability within cloud services such as Azure to store enormous amounts of data at a relatively low cost. Something else that's evolved is how we're processing our data. We used to gather that data, transform that data, and then load that data, extract, transform, and load, the ETL process. That has moved as we're getting more data, and the streaming data that we want to work with right away. We are loading that data and transforming that data almost simultaneously, and then presenting that data to dashboards like in Power BI and things like that. It's we still have some of those ETL processes with like batch processing and things like that. But when we're talking about streaming data, we are loading and transforming that data in a continuous loop. Um, the data, where is our data coming from? Where is it stored? What do we do with the data, and how do we manage that data? This data abundance really becomes really also our data governance, and how we're going to, what we need to do to classify that data. I talked in my previous session about zero trust and least privileged access and least required access. We need to make sure that our data, that we know what data is coming in, what that data is being used for, and who needs to have access to it, both from an internal and external partnership standpoint. And we need to have that governance over our data. I already talked a little bit about extract, load, transform versus extract, transform, and load. But when we're thinking about that, it's ETL, the older means was the way that we, data was not presented until it was in a ready state after transformation. Now we're loading it immediately for use. We're transforming as we're loading that data, and allows many different uses for that data. We can create different pipelines that do different things. For example, a website, a e-commerce site for clothing. That site has purchasing data that's coming in, customer data that's coming in, and we extract that data and load that data. And then we can analyze in one of two ways. We can analyze the sales data and what's going on from a sales standpoint, but also look at that data in a inventory and supply chain standpoint as well for reordering. So that same data can be transformed in multiple ways, but we do that without making changes to the raw data, so that therefore it can be used in those multiple ways. And that data also then breeds the ability then for machine learning and artificial intelligence, and where we can find trends and anomalies and all of those things, and we can then work with that data to do predictive analysis and build intelligent workflows and create predictive models for machine learning. And that's really where data science comes in, and puts those mathematical techniques that then can rise up the stack for doing predictive models and building intelligent applications and agents that then can identify and work with us for good and for valuable information that we might need. So what is artificial intelligence? When we're talking about artificial intelligence and AI, we're talking about a software that exhibits human type capabilities, where it can do visual perception, it can identify things on pictures and in camera and video, it can analyze text and fill form fields. It can take speech and translate it to text. It can do various decision making steps. Most people probably have some form of Echo device, or utilize Cortana on your Windows devices, and you ask Cortana a question. Cortana provides an answer to you, whether it's text or speech back to you. It's taking your speech, it's taking it and doing a search on the internet or in their data in the database, and then bringing useful information back to you, and that is using AI. Some of the challenges and risks to AI, and this gets us into the principles and the responsible AI that we really want to dig and make sure that we're keeping into account. So, key thing around artificial intelligence is we're building software that has a level of human intelligence. Now, the thing with that is it's only as good and responsible as we make it, because it is being built by humans. So we need to make sure that we don't have any kind of bias, and that we and that we, when we're building those, we have people from people from different genders, from different regions, from different languages, so that we can have a responsibility around our AI, our AI software. We want to make sure that it's safe, and that, when we think about autonomous vehicles, if there's a failure, it could cause an accident and could cause injury. Making sure data is not exposed. This goes down to sensitive data, governing over your data, classifying it properly if it's personal identifiable or personal health information, that we adhere to privacy concerns, that we may not work, that all solutions might not work for everybody. We need to make sure that we are thinking about potential visually impaired, hearing impaired, cognitively impaired users that need to that might not understand our AI, and we need to adjust accordingly. Users must trust the system and know that it's complex, and some things, facial recognition on your phone, is one of those things that even my own family sometimes doesn't utilize as much as it should to unlock your phone. And who's liable for the AI driven decisions? Understand that who's responsible for facial recognition, and there's a point on this slide, an innocent person convicted of a crime. This is a big problem with AI in law enforcement, and a big challenge. I'm outside of Detroit, Michigan, and there's been a lot of concern about using facial recognition on closed caption videos, and being able to and there's a lack of trust that that's going to properly identify a bad actor. And Microsoft has these principles of AI that kind of go alongside of what was in the previous slide about fairness, inclusivity, transparency, being accountable, and then really the middle and the right, privacy and security and reliability and safety are all key principles of responsible AI, and really key to having and building proper AI and working with the data at a reliable level, while maintaining that privacy and that security and that governance, and being fair, inclusive, and transparent, and accessible, really, across your development. So let's talk a little bit about Azure's pieces to this, and what and Azure data, and what this looks like. Is we have structured and unstructured data, and many different analytical systems to ingest that data with Azure Data Factory, bringing it into a database, whether it's a SQL database or a NoSQL database, processing that data and then visualizing it. And when we think about how that data is analyzed, then it takes that raw data, processes it, and then it visualizes it on a dashboard, and something that users can use. And so we take all that information. In this example, we have device data, transactions, point of sale data, and we're cleaning that data, and we're showing it to the executives of the organization. Here's our sales trends, right? And that's how we are thinking about that. And we can then add in certain things like cognitive services and other ways to process that data and visualize that data, and make predictive sources and predictive adjustments around things like our supply chain, or our sales trends. Maybe we're seeing a trend in France that we're not seeing in the United States, and we adjust our sales efforts and campaigns to either the areas that are lacking, to kind of boost them up, or take advantage of what's hot and what's ready to go, by going, maybe putting more efforts in the French market. So what is AI services, and what are we looking at here? In Azure, we have machine learning models, and we deploy those models, we run those experiments, and then we can then make predictive learning out of that. And that's really what we want to, and where we look at these prepackaged services is around language, speech, vision, and making decisions. So we have, Microsoft has multiple cognitive services that they can utilize for artificial intelligence and building workloads right out of raw data that we are streaming into things like Azure Data Factory and Data Synapse Analytics. And some of those common use cases here are, machine learning, making predictive models based on data and statistics. How many cars are going to be rented or sold this month at our dealership. How many are going to, what percentage is going to be a lease versus a purchase? Thinking of those, and I use a lot of automotive analogies, being that I'm from the Detroit, Michigan area. Anomaly detection. We use this in Microsoft Sentinel for identifying risky users and risky, potential threats in our environment. But we can use it also to find different patterns that might be taking place in terms of our data. Maybe something odd in terms of our sales that might have taken place. Computer vision can take pictures and take video feeds and identify and interpret people and places and objects right from those feeds. Natural language processing, taking a spoken word and having utilizing interpreting text to speech, speech to text, and vice versa, as well as then conversational AI and bots, which we interact with on a regular basis on almost every website we go to, being able to analyze and find get travel information, get support help, and things like that. So lots of different pre-built and capabilities around Microsoft Azure to build these models and really scale within the cloud. And as we scale and build these services and build things like bot services and cognitive services here for enriching our pipeline and our lives, we really need to think about then how that data modeling and AI is used and how we can utilize that, like I said previously, using those principles of responsibility and governing over our data, making sure that it's kept private and secure, while it's also being used for the betterment of society. And I've done some mentoring and judging for Microsoft's Imagine Cup over the last couple of years, and some of the things that the students that build these AI for good projects is amazing, and what they think about and what they do. We should, us that have been in technology much longer and are much longer in the tooth and much older, have a lot, can learn a lot from some of these students and the way that they think, and the way that they want to help society, utilizing the feeds of data and AI and machine learning models that Azure has really pre-built. I mean, and these are students that are at from 14 to 22 that really have very limited background in the technology, and they learn the technology, and Microsoft makes it very easy to as an entry point. And these are some of the things around data modeling for healthcare. Taking models, taking experiments and experimenting on data. AI is obviously still very important, and data modeling is extremely important in all of the science and the data that has been collected over the last 2 years with the pandemic, in learning about the COVID-19 strains and recognizing when new strains come out and modeling how effective our vaccines are versus each one of the strains, and what we need to do to continually protect ourselves, and all of that. But on top of that, they're getting all of this data from around the world. We need to make sure that it's also kept private, and we maintain the privacy of personal health information and the privacy of the people that are providing that data ultimately, and that we're not exposing who they are and any of their personal information as part of that. But we're gaining more information, and obviously we're hopefully hitting the endemic phase where we've just, like the flu, learning to live with it, and hopefully it does not cost us as many lives as it did at the beginning before we had a vaccine. Automated machine learning, again, taking that data and working through the data and then creating that model of what that model is going to look like. And Azure provides this very easy designer where we can split that data and build a and train that data for proper scoring and evaluation by taking a set of data, of raw data, and normalizing it and then splitting it off. And then this is ultimately how a machine learning model works and how we get it to production. Sorry, a little delay there. AI, now the AI and cognitive services capabilities within Azure, like computer vision, can be used for law enforcement. And again, this is a hot and kind of a sensitive topic in some pockets of how accurate it is, and that's really where the accuracy and accountability around those principles of responsible AI really come into play. Is what level of of privacy do you have? Generally anywhere there's any kind of video surveillance, there's usually a sign there says you're being watched, and that gives a level of at least transparency to that. But there's still, from a law enforcement standpoint, if a automobile is stolen, or somebody commits a crime, there are cameras everywhere, and they can spot you, they can identify and build this grid and find and pinpoint who you are and where you are. Some of these capabilities here, identifying locations and text in certain photographs, identifying types of vehicles, identifying facial expressions and facial recognition, as well as identifying just objects and what they are and who and then if it can be searched then against a criminal database, can possibly find potential people of interest for a crime. Image analysis, again, computer vision has the capability of kind of adjusting and finding, gathering and tagging people and places and things on a photograph or on a video, and analyzing that, and has over 10,000 levels of classes, so it can be very helpful for law enforcement and for identifying people, and identifying if there was a break-in or a robbery and somebody has a description of that person and what they were wearing. You could look back at video and put in the potential classes that this person was wearing, Nikes and jeans and a brown coat or a leather jacket. You can identify and maybe hopefully find that person before they commit another crime. Other things that computer vision can do: it does analysis. It can do sentiment analysis as well, with facial recognition services and face service, of whether somebody's happy or mad, or just finding certain emotions, and can be utilized then for whether you're what level of understanding you have around that particular picture, and help people even that are visually impaired to virtually look at a picture, because it could be read back at them. That's why we try in a lot of cases to use alt text or use captions for those that are visually impaired, or or need something read back to them. Reading text off of a picture and off of a source that can find various things and extract those images. Those are all helpful as well to feed things in databases, as well as maybe find certain anomalies in a picture that we may know. So some last things to think about and to talk about here around custom insights and understanding. We predefine models to recognize language and well-known celebrities and brands. You can create your own models for people and language, brands, animated characters, and as we create these models, and really the key thing here is, as we're talking about responsible AI and being responsible across healthcare, law enforcement, really any use that you're utilizing the information and the raw data. As we get into AI, we start getting into, again, privacy and capability and having to maintain those pillars of society, of responsible AI before we, as we build. And we want to, and the key thing here is an AI model or a machine learning model with our data is only as good as we build it. It's not, even though AI is a human-like software, that human-like software is built by humans. So we need to bring different perspectives in as we build and we create our models and create our ways that we are utilizing and enabling AI capabilities as we gather more data and want to work with that data. So that brings me to the end of this session. I talked about general concepts of data and AI, really hit on a lot around the responsibilities around AI and some examples of data modeling and AI, especially when we're talking about, recognizing the capabilities and the strength and viability of a vaccine against a deadly virus, or testing, for different strains of viruses, understanding and recognizing and utilizing data that we gather from fingerprinting and from closed circuit televisions, surveillance cameras, for law enforcement, and how we need to, how there's a fine line in a way that we need to make sure that we're maintaining levels of accessibility, levels of privacy and security around all of that. And I mentioned in my who I am slide that I have written the study guide and prep guide for SC for the SC 300 Microsoft Identity Administrator exam guide. I am putting in the comments for the YouTube the code and the link that's here on this slide. Feel free to reach out and get yourself a copy at the 25% discount. I'll also, based on the viewers of the live session, we'll do a drawing and send out a free signed copy as well for each of one of my sessions. So overall, over the 5 sessions I'm doing today, I will be sending out 5 free copies of my book as well. So look for that. It's available on the PAC publishing site. You can also buy it on Amazon, but you don't get the 25% code. The 25% code is going through PACT. It's a global code, so anywhere you are, you can take advantage of this. Also available for pre-order is my SC 900 guide as well. I mentioned Gimme Cloud Talks, and I'm doing this on behalf of being a co-organizer of Gimme Cloud Talks. GimmeCloudTalks.com. We're in the process of rebooting our user group, which was a Midwest Azure 365, Azure Microsoft 365 user group. We're kind of changing the format a little bit to more interview demo portion rather than PowerPoint. And if you're interested in providing a session, there is a sessionize call for speakers on the GimmeCloudTalks.com. Also, as far as the organizers of the group, we have Myself, I am working right now on Azure Back to School for September 2022. It's my annual event, 30 days of content provided from the community. Go to azureBackToSchool.com and you can do a call for speakers there. I will be doing 2 sessions at former fellow MVP Brian Gorman's Sci-Fi DevCon next week. That's currently happening this month, and you can access the content at sci-fi-devcon.com. You can you can access all the content that he's got, a speaker a day more or less, and content that's being posted daily throughout the month of May with a cool sci-fi theme to every one of the presentations. I'll also be speaking at the Azure Sweden user group on the 14th of May. Shannon Keene, another one of our co-organizers and a member of Microsoft's program management for identity governance, is doing a video series with MVP Shabez Dar on his I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. Derek Smith, who I forgot to put on this slide, is also going to be at the Scottish Summit in June doing a talk. And then Nick Collier and Brett Bozick are also co-organizers, and they are currently working very hard on some on-demand content updates to their Skylines Academy, which provides on-demand Azure content for exam prep. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time today. And feel free again to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, as well as follow me. You come go view my website, my YouTube channel, Captain Hyperscaler, as well, where all of these sessions that I've provided today will be available for viewing after they have been after they're complete. They will be on my YouTube channel as well. So thank you very much, everybody, and have yourself a great day.